we're really excited about this opportunity. We have had this remarkable investment in public education for the first time in a number of years. It has been, I think, for us, maybe the only silver lining of COVID is the reinvestment that has happened, from the federal government into public schools. And, we've tried to be very mindful of where we needed to invest these dollars so that we would really feel the positive impact of this investment for a number of years. When we were investing our ESSER 1 and our ESSER 2, so we've actually had 3 different grants. And so as we've invested those funds, we've brought together groups of stakeholders, teachers, principals, other instructional folks, community members, to have conversations about how we were going to invest that money to make sure that folks knew what our intentions were, right? And also that we were really, truly in service of the people that are most important for us, our students. Now we have this really unique and we think final opportunity for a significant investment in public education. And because of that, we thought that it was particularly important that we reach out to community members and our families in particular and get your feedback on what we're thinking about for this final investment before we make it formal and submit everything permanently to the state and then get that federal allocation. So again, I can't thank you enough for making time this evening for us. Your input is truly important to us. We really are going to take everyone's input and feedback and go back to our drawing board and see where we need to make some adjustments to make sure that we are truly acting in best service of our students and of course the community. And my charge to the team was we want to feel the positive impact of this at least 7 years in the future, if not further. So know that our intention is to make long-term investments that the community and certainly that our students are going to feel positively. So Amy Christopher, if you haven't met her, is phenomenal. I have been calling her our COVID fairy godmother. She has been doing all kinds of good work around the school district. She's been helping with food security, with different community service projects to make sure that our families have internet connectivity, to make sure, that students have what they need in order to be online. Any kind of good works project that's been happening out in the community, Amy has had the opportunity to have her finger in that in a leadership role. And so truly grateful to Amy for all the work that she always does. She is magical with all of our grants. But during this particular moment in time, she's just done an amazing job taking care of the community. And so I really appreciate that. So Amy's going to talk with you this evening about what we're thinking about for the grant. And then we'll ask you for your input and feedback.
Just welcome. We greatly appreciate you being here. Like Dr. Cruz said, your input is extremely valuable as we move forward and finalize our plan for these funds. The first thing that I want to share with you is just how our planning connects to our profile of a graduate. So Dr. Cruz, starting when she was our Chief Academic Officer, led this work. We had various stakeholders come together, not only to define where we want our students to be at the end of 8th grade, but where we want them to be post-high school. So looking to their future success as young adults and planning backwards, making sure that everything we do is aligned with this vision. And you can see these are various pieces that we keep in mind. We want our students to be collaborators, communicators. Technology skills is important and have those career success skills. And I think you'll hear this echoed in the pieces that we are planning and would like to put in this last investment with our ESSER dollars. And so what does that mean when we're saying ESSER? What it stands for is Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund. And like Dr. Cruz mentioned, there's been 3 different legislations that have provided us with funds from the federal government. This last ESSER $3, you might have heard of it referred to as the American Rescue Plan. The legislation was approved in March 2021, so just roughly 3 months ago. And then approximately 2-3 weeks ago, we received our allocation, what we can apply to receive from the Arizona Department of Education. And the statement at the bottom was just really important to us. And I think that the key word there is unprecedented. COVID-19 has had an unprecedented impact on all of us, and then definitely on our children. and on children that may be in circumstances that they were already difficult. It just exacerbated or didn't make things easier. And so because of that, the federal government is providing us with these funds. And there's two pieces we're going to talk about and give you a chance to talk with each other about tonight. The first being focusing on accelerating student learning. That's a requirement for these grant funds. And the second piece being a return to school plan. We do have a mitigation plan, but we are going to relook at it, and it will be our return to school plan, and I'll talk more about that tonight also. So how much money are we receiving? And so this slide provides you with that answer. We can apply to receive an allocation of a little over $19 million in total. That funding is intended to support us for 3 fiscal years. So all of the expenditures need to be concluded by the end of 2024 of that school year. But like Dr. Cruz mentioned, we're looking to make a longer impact. We want to invest in the future of our students for longer than that time frame. So we are going to be creative and meet the grant requirements, but also make sure we're meeting our students' needs. There's 2 pieces to the money that we'll talk about tonight. The first being a 20% set aside. And you can see the amount that would be if we pulled 20% off the top. It's a little under $4 million, and that has to be spent in a very specific way. And we'll talk about that in a minute. And then discretionary funds is the rest of the money that's left after you meet that set aside need. And that is at our discretion as long as it's allowable under the grant. And so that gives you an idea of the one-time funding that we're looking at. I just want to pause here to reconnect it. When we're talking about learning design, we want to make sure that all of our schools have high engagement, innovative learning spaces. And so that is that lens along with profile of a graduate that we're looking at. We want to make high leverage investments. And not only because the grant tells us to, but because this is what we do. We want to address not only student academic needs, but their social, emotional, and behavioral needs. That is a requirement as we're putting our budget together and submitting it to the state for approval, but it is what we want to do, of course, with all of our funds. And so I'm going to share a little bit with you about the mandatory 20% set aside, and then we will give you a chance to talk in smaller groups and meet each other and talk through what you've heard, and then see if you have questions or feedback for us tonight. So the mandatory 20% set aside is for very specific purpose. It must support extended school day, extended school year, after school or summer programs. And there's 2 requirements. The first, again, it has to meet not only student academic needs, but are we planning to meet their social and emotional needs? So for example, we did invest ESSER $2 in our current summer program that's getting ready to take place in 2 weeks. And it does include a focus on social emotional learning. We have our counselors and social emotional learning mentors that are working in the program. And so as we invested our previous ESSER dollars, we have made that shift. And so ESSER 3 would support us and you'll see that in our proposal, to continue our summer program, to strengthen it so we're meeting all of those needs. The second piece that you'll see here is that we have to target very specific populations of students that may have been disproportionately affected by COVID-19. There's other things that are going on that make it very challenging, and we need to intentionally think through how we're supporting all of our students, including students from various racial and ethnic groups, low-income families, children with disability, English language learners, students who are experiencing homelessness, our foster care students, and any students who are affected because of their gender and migrant status. So it's very intentional planning with these programs for the set aside to ensure we remove any barriers for all students to participate. So to give you an example in a moment, I'm going to talk about what we're proposing to put in this 20%. We know that we have students who may be experiencing homelessness, who may have difficulty getting to our summer program. And so one of our proposal pieces would be to put funding in ESSER 3 so we could transport in the summer, which isn't something we're typically able to do. So they could then attend summer school. And we do have some past ESSER money, and we do have some students who are receiving that support now, and we would love to continue that. So what is our proposal? For our set aside, we have 4 very specific programs that we would like to continue. The first being our Pride Club program, and that is a district employees. We've had our Pride Club before and after school program at various schools in the district for several years. It has not been a district-wide program. And so in our ESSER $2, we've already invested funds to expand it to every school in the district starting this next school year. So part of presenting to you tonight, the wonderful thing about it is we can already tell you something that's coming to fruition right now. And so after you come back from your breakout group, I'll put some information in the chat for you. It will include a link to what we were able to fund. And then our proposal is to continue what I'm going to talk about. And so with Pride Club, what we would like to continue is offering 40 scholarships per school site for families based on their household income. And so I will share a link to you about that eligibility that we were able to put together. And we think that would be a significant investment in our community for families who are struggling to find childcare to make it affordable for them. We would also like to fund reopening the Pride Club summer program starting next summer for the next 3 years and do the same thing. Offer tuition, either no cost or low cost options for families to attend in the summer. And we can support up to 100 students to attend the program at our community center. So that's one investment. The before and after school tutoring program, all of our school sites want to meet the need of our students during the school year, but funding is often a concern. And oftentimes our programs cannot sustain the whole fiscal year. So we would like to provide our school sites with 3 years of a before and after school budget so they can design a program that meets students' academic and social emotional needs. Our teachers, our counselors, and our social workers would be involved in providing supports to our students after school. The
And
third
Amy,
piece,
before you move on, the Pride Club acronym.
oh, it does stand. I will find that and put it in the chat. You're quizzing me, and I can't rattle it off right now.
It's a great quiz
is.
question, and you can see that you've stumped us. You know, some of these acronyms predate Amy and I, if you can believe it, and they're whoppers. But it is our before and after school program.
It is, and Pride, each letter stands for a trait. And so I will share that with you when you come back from your chance to discuss with each other and meet small groups. I promise I will answer that question. But it's typically, because of COVID, we had a lot of staffing loss. And so that is why the program wasn't able to operate. We are restarting because of this investment. We'll have before and after school at every school that we can staff, and where there's interest, where families would like to have that support next school year. And then we will reopen in summer, next summer would be our goal. And so that third piece, these are big pieces, as you can tell, would be our summer school program. Right now, we are serving all incoming kinders can attend for free a summer jumpstart program. We have a middle school program. We invested ESSER dollars to start this summer. That's a project-based learning support for 6th through 8th graders, but we're missing kids in the middle. And so we're feeling that very keenly. So we want to invest more funds to expand to be a K-8 program, continue that social emotional learning and academic support for the next 3 years. And then lastly, academic esports. If you have younger kids in your life, you probably know all about this. It is a amazing program that we would like to get started to motivate students, to connect them to school, to build their collaboration skills and problem solving. So those are our 4 big proposals for that 20% set aside. And so at this time, we would love to give you a chance to discuss with each other what you've heard us talk about just with the set aside component. Do you have other recommendations for us that meet that criteria, or do you have questions for us about these strategies? So Ray, are you going to send everyone out to breakout rooms for us? Oh, look at that. And so we'll come back in about 7 minutes and we'll see what you would like to share with us.
You should have a rectangle that popped up with a blue word that says join, and you can hit that join button.
Thank you for having those discussions, and we want to give you a chance. We're I think a small but mighty group. So if you want to unmute, if there's a question you want answered right now, we can take time to do that. Or if there's feedback you'd like to give us in the chat, we would love to see that as well.
So Amy, I don't have a question. I just want to congratulate you and Dr. Cruz and the rest of the Pendergast staff for this notion of 2 things: sustainability. So it's not just a one-time thing that, has limited impact, but you're really taking the long-term view. and for building on what you've already started with ESSER 1 and ESSER 2, that sense of continuity and really taking advantage and leveraging those dollars in really intelligent ways. So congratulations on the work you've done to date.
Thank you. We have an amazing team. I will tell you, it takes a village, and we are very, it's all about our kids. So, but thank you very much. But any questions or feedback?
Amy, I did have one question, and you probably covered it, and I was writing and missed that part. But in the before and after school, it's tutoring, right? So is that just academic tutoring, or will the social and emotional aspect be in there somewhere, or is it just tutoring?
So thank you. That's a really good question. And so it's tutoring budgets for our school sites, and then some other pieces that we're exploring is providing. We have a partnership with Read Better, Be Better. So to have that targeted tutoring for our third graders and have those middle school students, provide them with support. So that would be one piece. And then we know that there's partnerships that will develop in the next 3 years. So it's building out that school site, that before and after school tutoring budget. And where if you've caught that I'm talking a little generically about it, it's for that purpose. Our sites need to dig in and see what they can bring to fruition and what the needs are. So to start with, what we're proposing is really the funding to pay teachers. So it's stipends and benefits, salaries and benefits. So each school site would have that budget. But once we have a budget approved, we can revise. But we have to be meeting that 20% need. So if we make any changes to what we fund, it has to be targeting these specific components. And so I think that before and after school budget will start off with being our staff. But if there's certain school sites or things that we build forward that will work for kids, we can go after that. It's a great question.
And in our Pride Club program, that team is amazing. And they'll actually do some SEL work with the students as well. So we're doing two different things. You know, on one hand, we're talking about tutoring. On the other hand, we're talking about childcare. So knowing that, you know, if we're able to have the students in a safe place, their families know that they're safe, you know, then the idea is that we're going to be able to program the before and after care environment a little bit differently than what we might normally, right? What we might have done in the past. But it still gives us an opportunity, you know, with certified teachers to provide that tutoring. So, you know, basically, we don't want our families to pay for Kumon, and we don't want our families to send their kids to a YMCA or you know, have their kiddos home alone if they can be in our care. That's really what we're trying to get after.
So in the chat, I'm adding some links related to our Pride Club program, our before and after school program. And that first link, I'm going to try and open that up on my screen here. It's always fun when you have lots of screens. And that will give us the answer to that question if I can get to it.
Ramiro got it. He nailed it.
He got
put
it
in the chat. Yes.
Oh, and I missed it. Oh, look at that. Ramiro, you're amazing. That's it. So you'll see that at that first link about with our Pride Club information. It includes our rates, which I would encourage you to check out. One thing I didn't mention is we're able to provide an employee discount for our employees if you want your children in the program. We typically have not had a lot of employees take advantage of the program. And then our families, please check out the other link, which is our income eligibility that we've established for our scholarships. And we can do up to 40 per school site. And we're hiring staff as we speak. So as soon as we hire staff, we have interest, we will open at all of our school sites. There is a link to a wait list. If you're like, I want to think about it, I'd encourage you to go ahead and put your kid's name and your contact info on the wait list that you'll find at the Pride Club website. And then we'll just give you a call. So our Pride Club lead will call you at the end of June, beginning of July, and say, are you interested? And that's when we'll formally register your kids. So if you think maybe, or you know someone who's thinking about it, we would love it if you would encourage them to do that. All right, and I will share my screen again here.
Jasmine, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I wrote it down. And I've been writing down your questions and also feedback, and we really appreciate that. Keep throwing those ideas out.
All right, I think my screen has come back to life here. So what we talked about, the 20% set aside and what that requires, and what we're moving into, you saw that larger pot of money. So what is left after that has to be at least 80%. And that's where we really want to focus again on that intentional learning design. We want engaging spaces in the classroom. We want innovative teaching spaces. And how are we supporting academic and social emotional needs? And so what you see here are lists. These are the names of the strategies that we're proposing to include. And I'm going to talk a little bit about each one of them to give you an idea of what our intent is. And then you will have a chance again to talk with each other to see if you have questions or other feedback for us. And so the first is the Preschool Scholars Program. And so what that means is we would like to expand our preschool services to open 7 additional preschool classrooms for 3 and 4-year-old students, an AM and a PM section, in the next 3 years, and sustain it for 3 years. That would impact approximately 210 students a year. And so quality and affordable preschool it's a need in our community, and we would do the same thing that you saw us build out in Pride Club. We would build out a scholarship portion to that through using our ESSER dollars to make it no to low cost. The second piece is an investment in the people that we know, because people run programs that support our students. We have 3 amazing school social workers in our district. They are sustained by a grant. Those grant funds are limited, and we want to make sure they stay with us. They were instrumental in supporting resources for families during COVID-19, internet connectivity, just so many other pieces and programs, and working with our families. And so we want to make sure that we continue to have their support through the next at least 3+ years. Our school counselors, we're very excited. We have a school counselor at every school. Not all elementary districts can say that. And our school counseling program can become more robust if we equip our counselors with some tools. So to give you an idea of what we're considering would be some online middle school focused career tools, so they can provide guidance and support to our middle schoolers as they're moving forward into high school and beyond. In addition, they make up our school crisis team. So when we have a crisis at a school, they respond, and we would like to provide them with a school crisis kit. So those materials, it would be a one-time purchase that we would sustain many years past these 3 years of the grant. And we feel that's very important. And then also a data system, so they can collect data, they can look at the needs of their campus and make data-informed decisions for their program. The early childhood targeted support, thinking about that population of students, that's preschool children 0 to 5, so birth to 5, all the way up to 3rd grade. We would like to continue funding an early childhood interventionist. We invested ESSER $2 to have at least one early childhood interventionist at each campus this next school year. So that's an additional certified person to support K-3 learners. We would like to continue that into this next year. In addition, I know Betsy's here from our amazing Pendergast Family Resource Center. They are grant funded, they do amazing work. And that work is so important because it establishes partnerships with our parents and builds literacy skills and other skills with our students as they come into kindergarten. And so we want to expand that. And so funding, for example, we're proposing to expand our partnership with Unite for Literacy to target up to 400 families within our community over the next 3 years to receive bilingual books in their home. So they would attend workshops and they would receive books for their children. And Betsy, if you're interested, we have that partnership now. You could reach out to Betsy in our Pendergast Family Resource Center, and she will share more about that with you. And then also expand some of the class offerings, Raising a Reader, and some other really wonderful evidence-based programs for parents that will be beneficial to our youngest children. And the next piece you see is student and staff health and wellness. This grant requires we talk about both in our return to school plan and also in the budget. And so for students, and Bo, I know you were here, that we have the amazing Be Kind program that supports our students. We would like to ensure that we have continuity of funding to have that program continue into the future at each of our school sites, including assemblies. So they are engaging, they get kids pumped up. And our focus is on Be Kind, Be Fit, Be Healthy, because that targets that wellness goal for kids. Staff help. Staff members, we have EAP, so it's employee assistance programs. We can add on some additional support for our employees. So for our benefits eligible employees, we would love for them when there is a need, like counseling, that they could have up to 6 sessions free of cost if they need to move forward with that type of support. And that would enhance the wellness program we have for our employees. And then the next piece, I think there should be like flashing lights and all sorts of things around the curriculum materials. And Dr.
Yes.
If you don't mind, I
I
would love it
agree.
if you would speak to
No,
that.
and Amy is indulging me by letting me jump in during this part. So you can hear our initial thoughts are about how do we support our youngest students. We know that our youngest students, including students who aren't yet enrolled in our district, but who live in our boundaries, have also experienced trauma over the course of this last year. And, those families need some support in order to get those children ready for school, right? We want them to be happy and healthy and well and ready to be amazing learners. And so you'll see that focus, you're seeing that wellness focus. And now this is for the nerds in the room, probably mostly just me. So one of the things that has been really hard on us and on most school districts across the state is being able to make those capital investments to purchase new books and materials to make sure that our students and our teachers have the most current materials. And so in some cases, we haven't been able to purchase new instructional materials since 2001. So we actually have students where they're holding history books that 9/11 hasn't occurred. And we think that's a problem. And it's not because of poor stewardship. It has nothing to do with that. In fact, if anything, you should probably go hug the teacher who's kept that book alive for that long through that many kids. The reality is that we just haven't had this kind of investment opportunity before. And so because of this investment that the federal government is making, we're literally going to purchase new research-based instructional materials for every child in every grade, in every subject, including the subjects in art, music, and PE, which also have Arizona College and Career Readiness standards. And so we are just excited to get after it. And the fact that we are not going to have to ask our taxpayers now for a capital override or for any additional, tax levies in order to make this happen, we just think is huge. We actually have been prepared to go to our taxpayers to ask for a capital override because our materials are just so old. They're beyond their useful life, especially in this environment where we need to accelerate student learning. So we had been all prepared. We were going to go out, we were going to ask for that investment, and now we don't need to. Now we just need to be really smart stewards and think through our plan for the next few years. But I'm super excited about the curriculum investment. It's going to be fantastic news for all of our kids.
So just like Dr. Cruz was sharing, that focus is on all content areas, our special areas, art, music, and PE, a technology special area if that's occurring at a site, our ELA, English Language Arts, science, social studies. So it's encompassing all content areas, and then also a focus on our dual language program, which is currently at Sonora and Sky, because those curriculum materials also need to be current and relevant. So that's just a huge centerpiece of our proposal for our discretionary money. The last 3 bullets, lots of good stuff here too. So that educational technology to support interactive classroom learning. I was so wanting to show you some of what we've been able to see. We are looking to invest in interactive boards for our homeroom classrooms across the district. And so if approved, that would happen in this next school year. Think about if you know smart boards or you've seen projectors in classrooms. I'm dating myself. I was using an overhead. So that's like we moved on past that dinosaur. Smart boards are like a thing of the past. Projectors, So these are touchscreen devices. They do not need a projector, and they bring the world into the classroom. So highly interactive, highly engaging. It is a game changer in how we can discuss and have dialogue with students and interact in the classroom. A student has a question, through the board and the use of interactive technology, the teacher can respond very quickly. So it's really exciting. And we think that would be something that will make an impact past the 3-year timeframe of this grant. This last 2 bullets, universal design for learning. I will put, after you have a chance to talk about this, I'll put a link in the chat so you can kind of see these 3 questions. It's support, both coaching and professional learning for our teachers so they can think through how they plan instruction. And so the questions really that we want them to be well-versed in answering is, how do I engage all the students in my class? How do I present the information so it reaches all learners? And that interactive board would be part of a response to that. And then how do I offer purposeful options so students show me what they know? So it's being very intentional in planning, knowing your students, and that is hard work. It sounds very simple, but it's not. And so we want to provide them with professional development support over the next 3 years so they can meet academic and social emotional learning needs. And lastly, that support for preparedness and response, that's the language from the grant. What we intend for that is support for our IT department. We have deployed a lot of devices over the pandemic. We will continue to apply the lessons learned. We've become very paperless and we do things in very different ways. So those devices are important. So that part of the budget would support our library media techs at our sites, working an additional 5 days at the end of the school year. So they can clean up devices, inventory, make sure things are ready for the next school year, and then communicate with IT. It would also provide our IT department with some additional classified staff help during the summer for the next 3 years to prepare those devices, repair devices, and do that important work. So we are ready to go on the first day of school.
Right. So the idea is investing in new materials, right? Training our teachers to use them, training our leaders to coach those teachers to use them, and making sure that our IT team is ready to support any devices and any of the current devices that we've got, so we can keep it on for many, many years past the grant. So these are big chunks, right? Like really, really big pieces of the grant, and we're super excited about it.
So we want to give you a chance to connect. If Ray, if you would do your amazing breakout room mojo again for about 5-ish minutes, and give you a chance to talk through what you heard, what you liked, what you have feedback on, or if you have questions for us, and then we'll come back and you can ask those. All right, so I saw in the chat about more tools for specials. I know that's what in my group we were chatting about that. Just opportunities for students in the arts. Based on your discussions, any questions for us, or you can either put that information or feedback in the chat, or you can unmute and let us know what you'd like to ask.
I mean, I got some great questions I'll talk to you about bilingual resources and making sure that we've got the parent connectivity there, right? Whether that's people and programming, all that good stuff. So there were questions about how we're doing community outreach and providing bilingual material.
Wonderful. All right, so hopefully I have shared my screen appropriately and you can see the presentation, and you've heard about that 20% set aside that's required and what our intent is. And then you've heard about the strategies that we would like to place in the remaining discretionary funds in the grant. And that last piece that I mentioned at the beginning, it's there may or may not be pieces that need funding behind it, but this is a requirement in order to meet the ESSER III funding to submit your application and be considered for funding. You must do this as well. And so just briefly, I wanted to share with you that return to school plan requirements. And so it is, if you go to our website now, you will see our mitigation plan. And so if you look at our mitigation plan, it contains many of the elements that are required in the ESSER III grant. But what we will be doing is revising that mitigation plan. It will be a return to school plan. It will be posted before we are back in school in August. And it will be something that will be posted with a link or a means for the community to provide us with feedback. And so it's not a one and done. It's continually looking at that feedback and improving that plan. What it will include is what you see on the slide. Right now, you'll see it talks about mask wearing, our social distancing, hand washing, maintaining clean facilities. So our current plan has those elements. Some additional pieces that we will be more explicit about is our diagnostic and screening testing. As information becomes available about how school communities might receive vaccinations for younger children, we will provide that in our plan. And then making sure we have accommodations for students with disabilities. So just to summarize that, this plan also needs to meet academic needs, and then social, emotional, and other needs of students. So we will be explicit in talking to that in our plan. We will post it on the district webpage before school starts in August, and you will be invited to provide us with feedback. So we'll include a way that you can do that, and we will review that feedback. And so it will be at least quarterly or more frequently, depending on updates to CDC guidance. And we will make sure that that is a living document that supports our students' needs. And this is the important part. We need your feedback. And so in a moment, I'll stop sharing. We can put this link also in the chat. And we tried to keep it simple so you could type it out, but this is the way that you can give us your feedback, not only today, but any moment you have more feedback to give us. So we'll ask you for your name. It'll ask you what groups or school groups you're affiliated with. I promise it'll only take a few minutes, and then you will see each of the pieces we talked about. It's a checklist. You can basically vote and say, yes, these pieces should be in your plan. Check them off. You can add other items. And at the very bottom, you can ask questions, provide us with more feedback. If you would like us to give you a call and talk through some of these pieces, you can let us know that in that comment section and provide us with your contact information. So we just greatly appreciate your time. Dr. Cruz, any final remarks or?
I really can't thank you all enough. You know, we could not have done what we were able to get done during this time without you, without our parents, our staff, our community partners. And we're just so truly grateful. Thank you so much for everything that you have done, for our community and for our students. And I really appreciate your investment this evening. We don't take this lightly, that we have this really unique opportunity and that we need to be very good stewards, of this investment opportunity. And that truly is our intention. And I hope that you picked up on that as we were having this conversation this evening. I hope that you will please send other people to give us feedback on our plan. We know that people are incredibly busy right now. They may not have been able, to make it tonight, but that doesn't mean that they're not interested. And it sure doesn't mean that they don't care. It just means that this wasn't the right time for them. So if you know of folks who need to give us feedback, I wish that you would write our name and number down, whatever you need to do on any bathroom wall, anywhere, right? Get this information out to as many people as you possibly can, because we really do want to hear from our incredible community. And you'll see our work publicly as we're moving it forward. And really, I can't thank you all. Each one of you, like I'm seeing each one of you and I'm like, yes, like they're awesome. So I really do appreciate each one of you so much. And thank you for being here. And we've got all of your comments. Just know that we are going to, we'll download our chat. So we'll have your, the chat comments. I've been writing them down. I know Amy's been taking notes as well. And so we'll definitely infuse those pieces in.
And then just a couple of pieces in the chat. I did, someone messaged me that feedback link was being cranky. It wasn't working. So I put a different link. I will check that out, but that link that I placed in the chat, it's a little longer, but it will work. And then the document that I linked in there is just about universal design for learning. You should be able to click it and open that. If you have any difficulty when you fill out the feedback form, you can let me know and I will email it directly to you if you want to take a look. We greatly appreciate your time. Thank you very much for being here tonight.